trust fund, using trust fund dollars. As you can see, we funded 370 out of 667 municipal aid projects. 97 of those applications were for something other than roadway resurfacing, like sidewalk, bike lane striping, crosswalk striping, so on and so forth. 26 of those 97 applications were awarded funding. So 26 of all those applications were for something other than roadway resurfacing. The Local Aid for Bicycle program, which many of you are probably familiar with, we awarded 12 projects out of 95 applications at $2.9 million. And lastly, Safe Streets to Transit, we awarded $1 million that went to 6 projects. And as you can see, the need very much outweighs our funding levels. I'm going to talk about some of our state funding programs. I'm going to quickly go through the federal because I think Jeff did a very good job of talking about them. I will say that this presentation is unlike many that I give. It's going to be extremely wordy. I'm not going to read every slide. I'm going to talk to the slide, and I'm going to depend on you to take copious notes. Because I think that what you're going to learn today is you're going to get an education about, number one, the levels of funding and how you can get this funding, and some tips to be able to get an award. Because we see a lot of applications that are either incomplete, really don't make sense, not well thought out, and we'll talk about that. So let's start off with the municipal aid program. Again, these are trust fund dollars. The department encourages 10% of these funds to be used for bicycle and pedestrian projects. Historically, we don't see that level, the applications reach that level, because as you know, most towns need that money, or say they need that money, for roadway resurfacings. And as I mentioned before, we encourage the use of these funds for projects like bike lanes. If you're restriping the roadway, stripe the bike lane in, the crosswalk, putting a sidewalk in. Towns can use the money for this, so it's a matter of towns setting priority for what they want to use this funding for. And good projects need to come in order to be considered. Our Local Aid for Bicycle program has always been a very popular state-funded program, and as long as I've been Bike Ped coordinator for 10 years, funding levels really have declined. But for the most part, it remained steady at about $2 million a year. New Jersey has been a long-time leader in providing state funding for this type of a program. In fact, I don't think that any other state in the country has a program like this. And I think a lot of times we get a bad rap about the use of federal money, but the Department of Transportation in New Jersey has invested a lot of state dollars into biking and walking projects, and I think you need to understand that. Since we were mandated through the last Transportation Trust Fund reauthorization to reach a goal of 1,000 miles by 2010, that's bike miles, we've been able to keep the funding levels intact. Right now we're at 893 miles. We haven't reached our goal, but we depend on this local aid funding to get us those miles. I will say that as far as our funding programs are concerned, past performance on projects is heavily weighted in our selection criteria. So if your towns are putting in an application for this type of funding, make sure that they've spent their money in the past if they've gotten an award, because it does weigh very heavily. Safe Streets to Transit program, another state-funded program, very popular, was born under the Governor's Pedestrian Safety Initiative back in 2006. This program is very oversubscribed. Since 2007, we've been able to fund 25 projects at a little over $4 million. And these types of projects focus on safety around all kinds of transit hubs, whether it's a bus stop, light rail facility, even a private bus company facility. This program was steered to make a lot of pedestrian safety improvements. This is a program not many people know about, the Infrastructure Fund. Now this fund really is, any projects awarded out of this fund is really at the discretion of the Commissioner of Transportation. There is an application process for this program, and its primary focus addresses needs that are of dire importance to an emergent need. All types of projects can be funded under this program, including Bike and Ped. And I know that the Lawrence Hopewell Trail actually got some funding out of this pot of money to do a safety project on one of their local roadways. It was a crosswalk and a beacon project. So remember this fund as we move forward. Now, Jeff talked a little bit about transportation enhancements. With this program, we've been offering for many, many years, and I will tell you that many of the awards, because of how difficult it is to use federal funding for projects, there's quite a backlog of projects that haven't even been completed. And there's a lot of reasons why they're not completed, and we'll give you some tips. But going quickly through, because Jeff already talked about this, I will talk a little bit about Safe Routes to School. I think everybody, how many people know about this? Okay. Basically, it's funding projects around K-8 schools within a 2-mile radius, funds all kinds of different things. There's 2 parts to the Safe Routes to School program. There's the infrastructure program. We do expect to have a solicitation sometime this year. We are rewriting the criteria right now. The funding level will remain the same at about $5.14 million. The non-infrastructure side of this used to be a grant program, and we would give out very small grants, anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. I will tell you that that non-infrastructure side of the program is getting a total facelift. You'll probably hear more details about that very, very soon, but we think that we'll have more success with the approach that we're taking with this, but we're waiting for FHWA approval on this new pilot program. Let's just talk about this next slide, and then I'll move very quickly through. I'm getting the cutthroat sign. This is a project, Bill Folsch is in the back. He's the chairman of our New Jersey Recreational Trails Council. This is another pot of federal funding that you can go for, a $25,000 max grant. It can be used for all kinds of trail projects, even including waterway access trails, hiking trails, nature trails. It can be used for educational kiosks, benches, all kinds of things. This is a great program if you need the little stuff near your trail system. So check it out on NJDOT's website. The money actually comes through our capital program, but the program is administered by DEP. Usually about $1 million some for that. 30% of this money, though, does go to motorized recreational vehicles. Just some quick tips on applying for state funds. We'll go quickly through them. Ensure that you have strong community support in your application. One very important tip is to make sure you have good performance metrics set up for your project. Safety is a top priority within our department. Remember that. Ensure that your application is complete. Again, past performance is critical. Ensure that your documentation is clear and concise. And I will tell you that if you have photos, make sure that they're included in your package. When we sit down and assess these applications, we like to see the actual project. Just a couple things about CMAQ, because Jeff talked about it. I will tell you that the Voorhees Transportation Center is funded with CMAQ money. Our positions are funded with CMAQ money. We literally flex a lot of money to transit, but I will tell you, as the state funding resources are diminishing, we're going to be looking at using more of CMAQ money. We're going to be looking at using more of HSIP funds. In the past, these funds have been kind of hovered over by our safety office. And I've met with the new director of traffic engineering and safety. Well, he's kind of stepped back now, I don't know what to say more, but we've had those discussions already with the new blood in there to say, we need some of those funds. We're going to have to maximize the HSIP funds to get work done. I will tell you that we have approval from FHWA to use $1 million of HSIP funds to run a pedestrian safety marketing campaign. And we're going to be firing that up, hopefully, to get something out by the fall. But again, you have to remember that these funds can only be used on projects that are data-driven, that are on some sort of a management system list. And we have Bike Ped and bike crash and fatal corridors. Keep a list. We're going to start attacking those corridors one by one, and we'll be able to utilize these funds to be able to make improvements. We talked about Section 402 grants. Division of Highway Traffic Safety uses a lot of this money, and if you've heard about the Pedestrian Decoy program, they use a lot of these Section 402 funds to run those. so Division of Highway Traffic Safety gets to utilize a lot of this money. So let's get right down to the nitty-gritty here. When you're spending federal funds, a couple things you want to know. Thank you, Mike. A NEPA document is required. The feds will not pay for this, so make sure you have that. It's an environmental document. Make sure you have that done. There's significant cost to the sponsor for the plan specification and estimates. So make sure that you know up front that you're going to have a pot of money to pay for that. Make sure your staff knows how to work through the federal process. You got to work with our local district offices. They will help you through the entire process. Remember that federal programs are reimbursable programs. Some towns think they're going to get this money right up front. They're going to be able to go out and build their bike paths. It doesn't happen. You've got to have the money up front. Do not go over budget. That's critical. We've heard many, many times, even with Safe Routes to School, where they had to do this and this, and they didn't know about it. Next thing you know, they're over budget, and the project never gets built. And we talked about, again, working with the district office so you know the protocols, the process, the reporting, and the documentation that is needed. The last thing I want to talk about, this is an unadvertised program. I think many of you, I know Sheree Hill just got an award from the department to do our bicycle pedestrian planning assistance. We work with local municipalities to create bicycle and pedestrian master plans, traffic calming studies, sidewalk deficiency studies, rail trail projects, complete street projects. We have consultants on board that help us with this program. There is an application process, and you can contact one of us to learn more about it. I want to say that my staff and I continue to push within our department to have them do their part to ensure that we keep funding levels alive for Bike Ped projects. For the most part, we continue to be successful. We seek your support as we move forward to try to keep Bike Ped moving along within the department. Somebody asked about complete streets. I will tell you that our Commissioner Jim Simpson, fully supports complete streets, and he fully supports biking and walking as a form of transportation. And there's been a lot of support. And